I'm not trying to do Onyx Rose, but
Yes,
Okay.
okay. So, Melissa, what is in addition to what you mentioned already, what is the hardest part of running the organization and what keeps you going?
I think the hardest part is having to disappoint the clients when we don't have funding to assist them with their needs. It's always very challenging emotionally to deal with having to tell someone no when you know that they are in dire need and um, expect you to be able to help them solve their problem, but you don't have enough resources made available to you to give to them.
Yeah, that is always hard. And um, we do have I think one thing that's unique about AFH is that, although we have a demographic that we serve, our organization's mission is to provide homelessness prevention and support and disrupt the school to prison pipeline for youth age 12 to 26. We actually never turn anyone away. So um, every day someone walks through that door and needs some type of support, whether it's wanting food, whether it's needing clothing, whether it's needing support to find housing or rental assistance. There's always someone, and that can be a woman, with an infant, age, 50 to 70, are bringing in their own family or, children for support. And it could just be a older man wanting clothes. There is always someone, everything in between. We have kids who come in regularly who want food as well. So there is no person that we turn away. And, the resources that we have is just not enough, and we do hear stories of people being very strict with the resources that they have and ensuring that it goes only to that demographic that the organization and the mission serves. And that's something that Abundance of Hope, we never turn anyone away. Even if it's someone calling from another country, we find a way to connect them to the resources that they need, even if it means finding that resource in the country that they're in. So yeah, and I'm glad you pointed that out. And then so as I just want to one more question before you leave, or unless you have additional things that you want to say. I just want to know if anyone were to hear this podcast, a donor, a volunteer, or a potential donor, potential volunteer, or someone, just anyone in the community, what would you want them to leave with? What would you want them to know about Abundance of Hope Center?
I think I would just want them to know about that Abundance of Hope Center is unique in the fact that we have all experienced some of the same situations that we're helping people overcome. That Abundance of Hope has a mission, and the mission is to help anyone who wants to better their life do so. I also would like them to know that they can definitely be a part of that, whether it's volunteering, whether it's donating, or whether it's just spreading the word that we are out there and we're looking for volunteers or donations. Um, that would be awesome.
So thank you for your time. Unless there's anything else you'd like to add, we'll catch you later. Compliance is really important and integral tool. It helps in a lot of ways, but sometimes it can hurt. And the way that looks, to bring up a story just to help people to understand what compliance looks like and how it can hurt and help people. As a 7-year old, we were recipients of, I forgot what it's called specifically, but it's
the summer lunch program, lunch and
right.
learn.
It's the summer lunch program, and we were recipients. That was a big deal for us because we were experiencing hardships, financial hardships at one point, living in our vehicle. And as a 7-year old, we would I recall us driving to those parks during the time they were handing out the food to youth. So we would sit in the park and I would be very excited because you get your own lunch. You know, got the milk, the cookie, and I remember running and being very excited to line up and get that individual lunch because the fact that you get I was excited about the cookie. I'm not gonna lie. You get this cookie and your sandwich and your juice. So I would run and I would be very excited. We would sit in the park and they would also do like little games and gimps and things like that. So I found that to be very exciting. And I will look forward to that. But when I recall a time going to get that lunch and we were a youth required to come back to the car. We weren't allowed to on this occasion to stay at the park. Our parents said come to the car. So I went running to the car with my lunch, and one of the staff members came running after me saying, you can't eat, you can't take that to your car. You have to stay at the park." And so the person's running after me, and I'm a little child running away from this person who's chasing me to the car. And so um, that left me feeling as a child afraid because there's an adult, one adult running to me telling me that I can't eat the food after I can't take it to the car with me, and then my parents saying you got to come to the car. So that was a situation that caused me anxiety. It was scary. Imagine having someone, and although they're doing their job, because their requirements for compliance is that the food has to remain at the park. People can't take it from the park. But when you have a compliance requirement, then it's going to be harmful because that was harmful to the recipient, which was a young child excited about eating. That's something that we don't want to do that. So that's something that I feel like, although that initiative is very helpful and is a good initiative, one that they have expanded, which is fantastic, but the way it's implemented, the requirements, the compliance piece is harmful to the people that it's intended for. And that's something that we don't like to do at Abundance of Hope Center. And the donor support allows us to spread our services and be able to meet the gaps in a way that is not harming the participants who are recipients of the much needed support. And I share that story only because we've come to situations where the grants or the funding, the compliance piece prevent us from delivering on the mission in a way that's compassionate and a way that is beneficial and dignified to those who are most at need. What's something donors might not realize their gifts make possible?
So what donors doesn't realize that their gift makes possible is us having the ability to fill in the gaps of the services that are only provided by grants. Grants or
Have
government grants.
limitations. I'm sorry.
Government grants have strict limitations on what their services are for. So, for example, we just had a gun violence prevention financial assistance grant. And for that grant, we were only allowed to assist people that had been directly affected by gun violence. So they had to have experienced some gun violence. We're a community center that caters to the needs of anyone that comes into our facility. However, that grant only allowed us to provide for that specific demographic. So that left so much gaps of so many people that were not able to be assisted. We also had a grant that catered directly and only to our financial literacy workshop. That was we have people that come in that need rental assistance. We cannot help those people through that grant. So we have major gaps in the assistance that we are allowed to provide for our guests or our clients when we have restricted grants. And so with donor help, we are allowed to we have people that are calling that are not in our demographic for our grants, that we just got an email the other day. There's a lady, she has a 3-year-old child and her electricity is about to be turned off. We are not funded for that right now. So I had to apologize to that lady that I am not able, however, I am not able to assist with finances for her right now because we are not funded for that. But what I can do is bring her to our community center, see if we can find the resources that she needs through our partnering organizations, or if I can help her with food that we have, toiletries, or clothing. If we were funded by trustees or donors, then we would be able to have a more open spect of who we can serve. We are able to serve people in ways that we are extremely limited to when we are only receiving our funds from grants.
Yeah, thank you for saying that because I think one of the services that has been very instrumental and a flagship at Abundance of Hope Center is, and we've kind of expanded as well, which is the Hope Shop. The Hope Shop has, and I say this is important because the workshops that you mentioned, especially the gun violence one, we've had, one of the wonderful things about these programs and services is it brings in people of need from the most vulnerable populations. And when we have a resource that we are able to help, for example, the gun violence, that is, we've had some very horrific stories, and we were fortunate to be able to really help people who have been victims of gun violence. And when they're trying to heal and their families, their dynamics have been torn apart and just trying to heal enough, the depression that comes after having such a tragedy, it's just, we've had some very terrible stories, but we've only, because of that grant, the specifications of it, we can't help. There's other needs for those families that we can't help. We can only help with this piece. And when you sit down with a family who has had such devastating circumstances, and to see how that ripple effect throughout their entire life. Go ahead, Ella.
I want to speak to that point that you made about the fact that when you have a grant, we had someone for that gun violence grant that were shot in the face. So this person had experienced, an extreme traumatic experience that left them traumatized. But when we were getting this grant, when I was writing for this grant and preparing for this grant, I did not put security in our grant budget. So now that we had to hire security to make these people feel safe and comfortable to come to our events, we're not we're having issues with getting that paid for. So now this is going to not be possibly not be reimbursed for security to provide the help that was given to these patients or these clients. And so, yeah, without having donors to come in and take up that payment, so to provide the lack of services that we in our writing for the grant didn't even think to put on there. Now we're able to give the services that the grant was set to provide because someone else stepped in and paid, this bill. If we have donors, then
Yeah.
we would, otherwise we have to foot the bill
And
ourselves.
sometimes we can't. That's the one, the sad thing is, like, there was a lot of families that came in who had friends that they said, "Oh, I didn't even know about, the organization and the support that you all have." And so they also brought their friends in, because they knew about the other resources. So when we can't provide one resource because grant limitations or compliance requirements that we need to meet the limit, what we can do, we one of the wonderful things is that we do have resources that are self-funded, that we have funded, and the Hope Shop has been one of
Mhm.
them. What people don't know is the Hope Shop is fully funded by the staff of A of H. So that is the clothing, the food, the dry pantry, the toiletries. Some of the toiletries are donated, but by and large, that's right. By and large, that is a labor of love that we are very passionate about. I have to say that people are passionate about because it's something that we didn't have when we were growing up and we were experiencing hardship. This is, you get kind of like the hand-me-downs. And one thing I would love about everyone on the screen here, is we are very tied to ensuring that anyone who walks through that door who needs clothing, they're getting that's some of the what we would wear. And I know I want to take it to you, Majesty, for a second, because one thing I noticed with the youth, and I found that very impactful, is that when you sit down with them and you find out like what they like and what their needs are in terms of schooling. And I know I've seen some of the boys come in after school and on weekends to look for you because you were able to get jewelry or something that their friends have that they can't afford. So they're able to come in and gear up on things, shoes, clothing, accessories, and leave out feeling very confident and bringing more friends in to be able to go to school or go in their community and wear some of the latest trends that they couldn't necessarily afford, and just see their face light up because it's like they're leaving out with new gear. That I do admire that you always do those check-ins with the youth and find out some really important things that are going on in their lives, and being able to be a support. Because I know we did have a youth that was what I actually like. We had one that come in regularly and wanted to join the group as well, and then finding out that he was experiencing bullying, and so wanted
Exactly.
didn't want to do the workshop, wanted to do it remotely, wanted to participate, but was finding it challenging to come in because his friends or other people were in the community were in that weren't he was having the best time with. So and that
Yes.
come out being able to trust and have that having those regular check-ins made him feel comfortable disclosing that. So I really admire what you do. I want to turn it to the founder though, because we've talked a lot about how our background has impacted the work that we do and the way we deliver our services. And I just want to come to you now, which we should have started with. And I want to find out from you, what inspired you to create Abundance of Hope Center, because I know your background has been with working with youth for a very long time. What inspired you to not just stay at a school and work at a school or organization, but to fund your own organization, Abundance of Hope Center? What was the
And
motivation?
combat all the barriers that, like, you really had a lot of barriers. And I look at you like Hercules because you were like, I am not going to fail for these children. And like, I'm
And
so
still,
proud of you because I know all the things you had to go through to do it. So yeah, like what was it that was like your sword and your um all the powers that you
yeah.
gained in order to keep combating all the obstacles that were getting in your way of this. But
Uh,
you did it.
First and foremost, having my own kids and knowing that they needed me. And so that was my driving force, knowing that I had these lives that I was responsible for. And I knew, and my journey goes way, way back, but I'll start with having the realization that the person that I created these kids with was not going to be there to help me. And so when that realization hit me, I knew that I didn't having only had a high school education, that I didn't have enough education to help them. And so I decided to go back to school. And
I wanted to ask you, having been a mother myself and knowing your background as much as I do know, some of the hardships that you experienced, being a single mother, going back to school, and I ask this because I know you worked in special ed and which I find
special needs.
children with needs. I always found that fascinating because you had such a challenging home environment where you're having to raise parent on your own and raise children. And I know that home environment was very much a lot of work. So I always wonder, to go back into an environment with youth who were experiencing challenges themselves, where did you get the escape? But so what part of that experience made you say, you know what, not only am I going to take up this mantle of entrepreneurship as a single mother with raising 12 children. Well, I won't say raising 12 because some, the older ones were kind of already older, but to be a single parent, to work in a school system that was, inherently problematic, how did you find the strength and the wherewithal and the energy and the tenacity and fortitude to decide to be, and the courage to decide to be an entrepreneur and open up a organization for youth, at-risk youth? Like, how did you come to that decision and bring it through?
I can tell you love for one. I love my kids. When the kids I worked with, I definitely developed to care about them deeply because each one of them, I got to know them personally. You know, their story, why they were in the positions that they were. I kind of got to know the kids. And when I first started working with the kids with special needs, there was also a therapist in the room, and me and her had a very good relationship and rapport. So that's what, and I love helping people, and I've always loved. You guys know that because you used to look at me like when
Yeah.
the neighbor from down the street came looking for food, and I started helping him,
Mhm.
and y'all like we barely eating, and now you feeding the neighborhood too because
Yeah.
that's a passion of mine, helping people. So it comes easy for me. I love helping others to the
Okay.
point. Yeah. So that's
In a
one.
nutshell.
hmm And when you work in this environment and you see predatory behavior upon these group of people, it really kind of brings you into it because in each aspect of where I worked, there was predatory behavior. And there
Mhm.
was also people there who were concerned and cared about the kids. But for me, that's all that should have been there. It shouldn't have been predatory behavior. So that kind of disturbed me too. And that's kind of what prompted me and led me to eventually open Abundance of Hope Center and using when people look at where you looking at your own family working there, I know they're not predatory. I know they love what they're doing. I know they care for the kids because they've been there too. And they're qualified
Yeah.
more that so that's just part of it. Have a system backing their treatment of kids.
Yeah. So
Okay.
phrase that. When you look